There is a Jamaica most people never meet. It is not the Jamaica of turquoise postcards or rum-laced sunsets. It is the Jamaica that exists 1 meter below the asphalt, an invisible lattice of concrete, data ducts, copper nerves, and fiber veins quietly knitting itself together while the island sleeps. Tonight, we descend into that underworld, then rise above it, to witness how a small Caribbean republic is quietly engineering the most radical mobility leap the region has ever attempted. By the time I finish this sentence, a sensor embedded beneath the Mandela Highway will have pinged a server in Kingston, confirming that 43 tons of cargo just crossed the Pedro River at 02:17 a.m. A data point that will decide whether a hospital in Morant Bay receives its dialysis filters before dawn. That single packet of information is traveling through a conduit laid last March by Chinese and Jamaican crews working under a project codenamed Spark, an acronym the government barely explains in public, yet one that is already rewiring the physics of daily life for 3 million islanders. What you are about to hear is not a list of civil works contracts. It is the audible blueprint of a nation hacking its own future, road by road, bridge by bridge, electron by electron, until the very concept of distance begins to collapse. The invisible highway let us begin with a number, 2047. That is not the population of a fishing village. It is the count of roadway segments the Ministry of Transport classifies as structurally exhausted. Picture them as open wounds in the map, fractures through which time, money, and blood leak every hour of every day. A 2023 actuarial study commissioned by the Inter-American Development Bank calculated that the average Kingston commuter loses 7.4 years of productive life to congestion. One entire Olympic cycle evaporating inside a metallic river of second-hand Toyotas. The same report estimated that if nothing changed by 2030, the economic hemorrhage would exceed USD 1.8 billion annually. Roughly, the cost of building 2 new international airports. So the state did something governments rarely risk. It redesigned the problem from zero. On 12 October 2024, inside a guarded hangar at Port Esquivel, engineers unrolled the first polymer-faced, pre-stressed concrete panel, 2 meters long, 1 meter wide, 12 centimeters thick, and stamped at the corner with a QR code that will outlive every person in this story. That slab was the prototype of Spark's new road skin, a modular armor immune to the island's cruel thermal seesaw, 35 degrees C at noon, 18 degrees C at midnight. Cycles that turn ordinary asphalt into brittle lace within 5 years. Each panel is cast in a factory outside Old Harbor, cured for 96 hours, then trucked to site where a single crew can lay 400 meters in a shift, 4 times faster than traditional paving, without the sticky volcanic stench of bitumen. But the true genius is underneath. Milled into the underside of every slab is a trapezoidal channel, an umbilical groove that snaps onto a corrugated duct running the entire length of the carriageway. Inside that duct lives a 144-strand fiber optic ribbon, 2 redundant power cables, and a polyethylene tube kept deliberately empty. That empty tube is the ghost in the machine, a reserved bore for whatever technology the 2040s will invent. Quantum data, algae fiber, maybe even superconducting freight capsules. In other words, Jamaica is not merely rebuilding roads. It is pre-installing a nervous system for inventions that do not yet exist. Early tests show the panels can survive a Category 4 hurricane with surface scarring of less than 0.3 millimeters, damage that can be erased by a robotic polisher the size of a household vacuum. When a panel does fail, a LiDAR-equipped truck pinpoints it at 80 kph, sprays a dot of ultraviolet paint, and schedules replacement before the driver who just rolled over it finishes his phone call. The replaced panel is craned out, shipped back to the factory, crushed, recast, and returned to inventory. 99% mass recovery, a circle that would make a physicist blush. By June 2026, 1,100 kilometers of primary corridors will wear this armor, enough to stretch from Miami to Havana, creating the first truly hurricane-proof road network in the tropics. But spark is only the visible half of the trick. The other half lives in the air gap between the panel and the limestone bedrock, a lattice of piezoelectric shingles, quartz wafers no thicker than a credit card, that harvest pressure and convert it into electricity. Right now, that trickle powers the streetlights above. By 2028, cumulative output is projected to feed 12% of Kingston's public grid, energy generated not by wind or sun, but by the collective weight of citizens simply going home. Imagine an island where rush hour is no longer a liability but a power plant in motion, where every footstep, tire tread, and raindrop is monetized in kilowatts. That island is not a thought experiment. It is pouring itself into wooden molds tonight while you sleep. The bridges that remember STORMS roads, however, are only as strong as the bridges they marry. Jamaica carries 1137 river crossings, some no wider than a suburban driveway, others spanning gorges deeper than the height of the Statue of Liberty. 43 of them failed during Hurricane Ivan in 2004. 19 were never rebuilt, isolating entire districts for half a decade. To ensure that history starves instead of repeats, the state launched the Accelerated Bridge Program, ABP, on 3 January 2025, under a loan agreement so intricately structured that the legal documentation weighs 14 kilograms when printed. The number sounds arbitrary until you learn that each kilogram corresponds to one bridge that will rise before 2027. 14 kilos, 14 structures. But the symbolism ripples further. Yet the ABP is not building 14 bridges. It is building 54, grouped into 3 typologies: arterial, pedestrian, and emergency escape. The first type must survive a 1 in 200-year flood. The second must welcome a pregnant woman with a toddler in each arm. The third must stay passable even when the island has been scoured clean of GPS. Take Bridge 7 to 12, officially the Shooting River crossing in St. Thomas, a district where banana trucks still carry produce to market on rope-cobbled suspensions dating from 1958. Every July, the river swells from a sleepy 3-meter trickle to a chocolate torrent 38 meters wide, ripping away whatever engineers believed permanent the previous year. The new bridge is being cast 1.5 meters higher than any recorded flood crest, an elevation chosen not by bureaucratic decree, but by feeding 147 years of rainfall data into a machine learning model trained at the University of the West Indies. The algorithm ran for 9 days on a cluster cooled by recycled seawater and spat out a single integer, 1.47 meters. Human caution rounded it up. Climate rage rounded it up again. The resulting deck is a single 84-meter span of ultra-high-performance concrete, UHPC, compressed to 180 megapascals, strong enough to park a 747 on the center line and still meet deflection codes. Embedded inside the handrails are fiber-optic strain gauges that sing in real time. If a flood-borne boulder dents the parapet by more than 2 millimeters, an SMS reaches the parish disaster coordinator before the ripples fade. Bridge 4 to 9, the Pedro River crossing in Clarendon, tells a quieter story. Here, the enemy is not height but length. The valley is wide, flat, and prone to lateral shift, a geological behavior that once dragged an entire steel truss 11 meters downstream overnight. Engineers therefore abandoned the valley floor altogether. Instead, they sank pylons into the flanks of the surrounding hills, creating a 240-meter cable-stayed ribbon that leaps the floodplain like a ballerina in point. Its deck only 60 centimeters thick, thinner than the average dictionary. At night, lead strips powered by the same piezoelectric principle. Under the highway's paint, the cables in slow, pulses the color of phosphorescent plankton, turning infrastructure into public art that costs less than $5 a month to illuminate. The youngest bridge in the portfolio, 11 to 3, is a pedestrian crossing over the Rio Caber in St. Catherine. It is designed exclusively for feet, yet its specifications were borrowed from mountain rescue footbridges in the Swiss Alps. The 78-meter deck is a carbon fiber trough weighing only 18 tons, so light that 20 volunteers walked it into place by hand, medieval style, while a cellist played Bob Marley's Redemption Song from the center span to calibrate harmonic resonance, when wind tunnel tests revealed that a hurricane could induce torsional flutter above 22 meters per second. Engineers added 2 tune mast dampers disguised as planter boxes now bursting with bougainvillea. The flowers will sway, but the bridge will not. By December 2026, all 54 bridges will be complete, forming a distributed nervous system of crossings that talk to one another through a cloud dashboard nicknamed Ariadne. If Bridge 7 to 12 detects abnormal vibration, Ariadne can reroute traffic across Bridge 6 to 10 before the first radio bulletin has time to panic. For the first time in Caribbean history, infrastructure will possess procedural memory, an ability to learn from its own bruises. The ghost trains return bridges carry roads, roads carry commerce, but commerce dreams of steel wheels on steel rails. Jamaica's railway once moved 14 million passengers a year, more than the island's population at the time, on a 370-kilometer network whose oldest sleeper was laid in 1845, 15 years before Abraham Lincoln became president. Then the oil shocks of the 1970s arrived. Subsidized asphalt became cheaper than maintenance, and line after line fell silent. By 1992, the only sound echoing through Kingston's Central Station was the flutter of bats in the ticket hall. For 3 decades, the tracks lay like fossils in limestone, occasionally looted for scrap, more often buried beneath informal settlements that forgot there had ever been another geometry. But memory, unlike steel, does not corrode. In 2018, a team of graduate students at UWI mapped the entire right-of-way using LiDAR drones and discovered something inconvenient. 83% of the original alignment remained physically intact, overgrown but recoverable. Their thesis, quietly submitted to the Ministry of Transport, argued that resurrecting a 57-kilometer commuter spine between Old Harbor and Spanish Town could move 22,000 people a day at operating costs lower than the diesel buses, currently burning 1.2 million liters annually on the same corridor. The paper was stamped feasible in red ink, and red ink in small bureaucracies is the first cough of resurrection. Pilot service reopened on 15 August 2022, 2 battered locomotives leased from Colombia, 4 rehabilitated stations, and a timetable so cautious that trains trundled at 25 kph, slower than a determined cyclist. Still, 136,802 passengers rode in the first 12 months. Students, market vendors, nurses, hotel workers, people who discovered that time, unlike money, can be borrowed from the future if the present offers reliability. Emboldened, the Jamaica Railway Corporation placed an order with Alstom for 8 Coradia Lint diesel hydraulic units configured for 1067mm Cape gauge, the same gauge Queen Victoria's engineers chose in 1845 because it matched the plantation tramways. History, it seems, approves of symmetry. The new trains will arrive in summer 2025, each capable of 120 kph, each equipped with regenerative braking that feeds current back into onboard lithium cells, cutting fuel consumption by 34%. Stations are being rebuilt as microhubs, solar canopies, rain-harvesting roofs, and 5G towers disguised as vernacular latticework. Smart ticketing will allow a passenger to board in Linstead, tap a bank card, transfer seamlessly to an electric bus in Spanish Town, and disembark in Kingston 71 minutes later, 38 minutes faster than the average 2023 car journey on the same route. But the longer vision is hungrier. Phase 2 will push west to Montego Bay, resurrecting 190 kilometers of coastal line last seen in 1974. Phase 3 will tunnel through the Santa Cruz Mountains to reconnect the bauxite belt, not for ore but for high-value agricultural freight. Yams, cocoa, turmeric. Time to reach Kingston's port chillers before sunrise. By 2032, if the spreadsheets hold, Jamaica will move 8% of all domestic freight and 18% of intercity passengers by rail, slicing 140,000 tons of CO2 annually, the equivalent of grounding every domestic flight for 4 months. And because the rails will share the same fiber spine as Spark roads, a central algorithm will synchronize train paths with traffic lights, drawbridge openings, and even the departure gates at Norman Manley International, so that an avocado leaving a farm in St. Mary can be sliced in a London sushi bar 54 hours later without ever encountering a red light. The trains, in short, are not returning. They are being reincarnated as data-driven arteries in a body that once thought itself limbless. The port that never sleeps steel, however, is only half the equation. The other half is salt water. Kingston Freeport Terminal, KFT, currently handles 1.9 million TEU annually, enough metal boxes to circle the island 1.5 times if laid end-to-end. Yet the port is structurally blind. Cranes still require human eyes, trucks still queue for paper stamps, and customs officers still inspect containers with flashlights and intuition. That blindness is being cured. In 2024, KFT signed a concession with a Dutch-Belgian consortium to install the first fully automated gate system in the Western Hemisphere south of Miami. License plate recognition, thermal scanning, and neutron-based cargo imaging will reduce truck dwell time from 47 minutes to 92 seconds, faster than ordering a latte. Simultaneously, the harbor basin is being dredged to 16.5 meters, deep enough to welcome the new generation of 24,000 TEU vessels, whose keels currently bypass Jamaica for Panama. The dredged spoil, 8 million cubic meters of silt, will not be dumped at sea. Instead, it will be mixed with local limestone to manufacture the very concrete panel Spark is snapping into roads, closing a circle that turns waste into mileage. Adjacent to the port, the Caymanas Special Economic Zone is rising on 1,200 acres of former sugar estate. When complete, it will offer 600,000 square meters of Grade A logistics space, chilled and ambient, bonded and non-bonded, served by robotic cranes that can sort 40,000 SKUs per hour, enough to service every supermarket in the Caribbean twice weekly. The zone's electricity will come from a 95-megawatt solar farm floating on the old irrigation pond, preventing evaporation and generating 14% more yield, thanks to the cooling effect of water. Every kilowatt-hour fed into the grid will be tokenized on a blockchain ledger, so that a hotel in Negril can, in theory, purchase renewable credits generated by a warehouse roof in St. Catherine, an energy marketplace without borders. Meanwhile, the smaller airports, Ken Jones in Port Antonio, Negril's Ian Fleming, and Boscobel's Tinson Penn, are receiving micro-makeovers that sound trivial but are revolutionary for rural circuits. Runway extensions of just 300 meters, precision approach path indicators, and weather stations linked to Kingston's meteorological service in real time. The combined investment is under USD 90 million, yet it unlocks 1,400 new general aviation routes capable of carrying high-value, low-weight cargo, think lobster, grouper, or cultured ganja, directly to Miami in 67 minutes, bypassing Kingston entirely. Jamaica, in effect, is turning itself into a distributed airport, a place where any pasture flat enough for a 1,200-meter strip becomes a potential node in a same-day logistics lattice. And because every node will feed data into Ariadne, the same dashboard that watches bridges and trains will soon predict the arrival of a drone carrying blood plasma before the doctor requesting it has finished the phone call. The silent bus revolution, all the steel, concrete and code in the world matter little if the final kilometer is still conquered by a 1998 Toyota Hiace bellowing black smoke. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, operates 450 buses across the Kingston metropolitan area, consuming 6.3 million liters of diesel yearly, enough to fill 2 Olympic pools. On 7 March 2024, at 05:43 a.m., bus fleet number 9921 left the Rockfort Depot without a combustion engine for the first time in JUTC's 25-year history. The vehicle, a 12-meter Yudong E12, carried 67 passengers to Halfway Tree in complete silence. Its only soundtrack the low hum of tire tread and the involuntary gasp of riders who felt the future arrive without changing gear. Since that morning, 42 additional E12s have entered service, each capable of 300 kilometers on a single charge, each saving 52 liters of diesel daily. The cumulative silence is measurable. Ambient noise along the number 3 route has dropped 4.7 decibels, the acoustic equivalent of removing 1/3 of all traffic, even though volume stayed constant. But electrification is not merely an environmental courtesy. It is geopolitical armor. Jamaica imports 100% of its petroleum, a dependency that costs USD 1.3 billion annually, more than the combined budgets of health and education. Every electric kilometer traveled is a direct reduction of that fiscal hemorrhage, a sovereign act as much as a climatic one. To accelerate adoption, the government waived import duties on EVs under USD 35,000, slashing sticker prices by 21% overnight. Charging infrastructure followed with private sector urgency. 112 public chargers now dot the island, from the hipster enclave of Treasure Beach to the bauxite township of Yorton. 54 of those chargers are bidirectional, meaning an electric school bus parked at midday can sell power back to the grid at peak tariff, earning operators up to USD 80 daily, enough to fund the driver's salary through voltage alone. The grid itself is being reinforced by a 190-megawatt solar farm at Paradise Park, Westmoreland, currently the largest photovoltaic installation in the English-speaking Caribbean. Its DC output will be inverted, stepped up to 138 kilovolts, and injected into the national ring so that every electron entering an electric bus in Kingston will have begun life as a photon landing on a panel 160 kilometers away. Sunlight translated into motion via silicon and policy. By 2030, the target is 30% electrification of all public and private transport, a figure that sounds modest until you realize it implies 140,000 vehicles, 3,500 chargers, and a 17% reduction in national greenhouse emissions, enough for Jamaica to exceed its nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement without touching the power sector. And because the transport and power datasets will share Ariadne's brain, an overcast morning that reduces solar output will automatically trigger slower bus speeds and optimized routing, shaving peak demand before the grid even notices the cloud. The hidden plan, REVALED, which brings us to the convergence most observers miss. The modular road panels, the singing bridges, the resurrected rails, the robotized port, the silent buses. Each project carries a different logo, a different minister, a different ribbon-cutting schedule. Yet beneath the press releases they are chapters of the same sentence, nodes of a single neural organism whose full outline has never been publicly disclosed until now. The skeleton is fiber, the blood is data. The synapses are algorithms hosted in a mirrored server farm cooled by the same seawater that once carried slave ships. Every spark slab contains a vacant tube waiting for quantum cables. Every bridge reports strain in microseconds. Every train axle counts its own revolutions and schedules its greasing. Every charger negotiates price with the grid. Every gantry crane at Kingston Freeport shares its fatigue rating with the Ministry of Health. Because a crane that fails can block insulin. An insulin shortage shows up in hospital triage software within 6 hours. This is not smart infrastructure. It is a living exoskeleton learning to defend its host. And the host is not the government. It is the collective body of citizens who will soon move, trade, breathe, and procreate inside a circulatory system that predicts, preempts, and self-heals. Imagine a hurricane warning issued at dawn. By breakfast, Ariadne has slowed all trains to 50 kph, rerouted buses to elevated depots, lowered drawbridges to locked position, and dispatched preloaded trucks with solar microgrids to hospitals whose backup generators failed their last diagnostic. By midday, the eye wall crosses Morant Point. By dusk, the island is already calculating reconstruction budgets using real-time damage data harvested from strain gauges and LiDAR drones, while insurance adjusters in London watch the same feed and release emergency funds before Jamaican radio has finished the weather summary. This is not a fantasy. The code is already written, the sensors already soldered, the licenses already signed. What remains is only the final act of integration, an invisible ceremony occurring one data packet at a time while citizens sleep, dream, and wake up in a country that repaired itself before the coffee finished percolating. The economics of time reclaimed, let us translate engineering into anthropology. The average rural worker spends 3 hours 12 minutes traveling to and from Kingston daily. 77 days per year paid not in wages, but in patience. Spark roads, once complete, will cut that journey to 1 hour 48 minutes, returning 46 days to every life. Enough to learn the guitar, plant a breadfruit grove, or read 23 novels. A mother in Pedro Plains who once left home at 4 o'clock a.m. to reach her hotel shift in Negril will instead board an electric bus at 5:17, connect to a train at Lucia, and clock in at 6:45, still humming lullabies to the child she kissed, awake only 90 minutes earlier. A farmer in St. Elizabeth will load 12 tons of Scotch bonnet peppers into a refrigerated container at 7 o'clock p.m. By 9 o'clock p.m., the same container will be aboard a vessel bound for Rotterdam. Its temperature, humidity, and ethylene levels monitored from a phone in the farmer's pocket. The produce sold before dawn at prices fixed by blockchain auction. These micro-victories compound into macroeconomics. The World Bank estimates that every minute saved in national commute time adds USD 14 million to annual GDP. Save 90 minutes per commuter and Jamaica unlocks 1.26 billion yearly, enough to fund free tertiary education without borrowing a cent. Add the reduction in fuel imports, the rise in property values along rail corridors, the carbon credits sold to offshore airlines, and the logistics fees captured from transshipment, and the integrated network could contribute 9% of GDP by 2035, an impact larger than tourism today. But the final dividend is existential, the slowing of exile. For 40 years, the brightest Jamaicans have fled to Toronto, London, New York, taking with them not just labor but memory, humor, and the tacit knowledge that keeps culture alive. A country where you can live in Portland and reach a Kingston office in 55 minutes, or farm in Westmoreland and sell in Brussels overnight, is a country that can argue with gravity. The network, in short, is a love letter written in concrete and code, imploring its children to stay. The future is already en route, so what happens next? That island is not a promise. It is a project already 37% complete. The only remaining ingredient is the curiosity of those who will use it. Citizens, investors, visitors, storytellers. People willing to test the edges of a new geography being written in real time beneath their feet. So the next time you hear the low hum of a passing bus, or feel the almost imperceptible shudder as your tire crosses a fresh seam of concrete, pause for 1 second and listen. That is not noise. It is the sound of a nation uploading itself into a future where the map and the mind finally move at the same speed. And the upload, dear listener, is only just beginning.